Okay, class, good evening. We have a lot to get through tonight, so let's get right to it. So the main gist of this is going to be how to write a quadratic equation when given 3 points. So sometimes you might be given a graph, in which case you can actually pull the points off of the graph. So for example here, some good points to pull off here would be -2, 0. -4, 0, and -3, -2. Okay, so the first form we're going to look at is vertex form. That's the one that we have been using. So vertex form, which is on the poster in front of the room, has our transformations A, H, and K. And so sometimes the points that you're given may represent certain points on the graph. Okay, as we can see here, this point here represents the vertex. These 2 points here are going to be our x-intercepts or our roots. Okay, so plugging in our vertex, since this is vertex form, this is going to be our h value, this is going to be our k value, plugging those points in. So when we plug a -3 in for h, we actually end up with +3. Okay, and so remember, we've already learned how to find the a value. So if you know that this is, if you're given a vertex point and you know it's the vertex point, you can plug that in, and then you can take a different point and plug it in for x and y, and then solve for a. We've done that already, so I'm not going to go over that again. The a value in this situation here is going to be 1, 2. But let's get to some new material. Let's take a look at another form. Another form we're going to look at is factored form. And this form is also known as root form or intercept form. Okay, and this one is also on a poster at the front of the room. So in this case, we need to plug in the roots. So we know we have the roots here. We can tell that these are roots because notice that they both lie on the x-axis. The y-coordinate is 0. So if we plug these 2 numbers in for the roots, we have, so plugging -2 in for r sub 1, we get +2. Plugging -4 in for this root, we get x plus 4. So next we just need the a value. So again, let's go ahead and do the math, and let's pretend we don't know what the a value is. So since we plugged these 2 points into our form, we want to use a different point to find a. So I'm going to go ahead and use -3, -2. So -2 will go in for y, and then -3 will go in everywhere I see an x. And then we just solve for a. So this gives us -1. This gives us +1. So we end up with -1a equals -2. Divide by -1, and there's our a value. which we already knew because these points are based on this graph, and we got our A value right here. Okay, so the third form that we're going to look at is standard form. So standard form each form tells us something different about the graph. Standard form doesn't have a lot of information, but it's also on a poster at the front of the room. Something unique about standard form is that it gives us this value here, which is going to be your y-intercept. Most of this should be review from Algebra 1, hopefully anyway. And so we would write that intercept like this, whatever that value is. Okay, so how do we get it into standard form? Well, if we're given 3 points, okay, we're going to put these points into the equation. So 0 would go in for y. Okay, and it's a times x, so x is -2, plus b, back down here, b times x, x is -2, plus c. So notice I plugged 0 in for y, and I plugged -2 in everywhere I saw an x. Okay, well now we're going to do that with the second point. So I plug 0 in for y, and I plug -4 in everywhere there's an x. And now the third point. Okay, so what we're going to do next is we're going to simplify this. I'm going to go ahead and square the -2, which was 4. So I'm going to have 4a, okay, plus -2b. So rather than putting plus -2, I'm just going to put minus 2b plus c equals 0. And I wrote that down here. And you want to do the same thing. Okay, and simplifying the second equation, we're going to get 16a. So please write that below. Minus 4b plus c equals 0. And that's written down here below. Next thing we want to do, simplify the third equation. So we're going to get 9a minus 3b plus c equals -2. Okay, so let me remind you what this is called. This is called a system. And so now what we need to do is we need to solve for A and B and C. How should we do this? Gaussian elimination method? Why do I hear so much groaning from the crowd? Stop groaning. We're not going to use Gaussian elimination method unless you'd like to. Okay, let's go ahead and use elimination method. So we're going to use elimination method. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and eliminate my c's in these two equations. So I'm going to multiply, actually I could just subtract these two equations right here. So 4a minus 16a is going to be negative 12a. Negative 2b minus negative 4b is going to be 2b. C minus c, those cancel. 0 minus 0 is 0. Now I'm going to do the same thing with these two. Since these are the same, I'm going to go ahead and eliminate the c here as well. That way I don't have any c's in my two equations. So I am going to subtract these two equations. So 16a minus 9a, 7a. Negative 4b minus negative 3b is going to be negative b. And then the c's cancel. And then 0 minus negative 2 is 2. Okay, now that I'm down to two equations, I'm going to go ahead and multiply this equation here by 2. And then I'm going to add these two equations together to eliminate the b. So 2 times 7a is 14a. 2 times negative b is negative 2b. And then 2 times 2 is 4. So adding them up, we get 2a eliminates equals 4. Divide by 2. We get a equals 2, which we already knew, right? So we know we have the right answer here. So we know what a is. A is 2. Now we have to find b. So we're going to take 2 and we're going to plug it in for b. So we have negative 12a plus 2 times 2 equals 0. And now we're going to go ahead and solve this for a. Whoops! Back up, Mr. Kramer, back up. Sorry about that. A equals 2, so I plug that in for b. Error alert, error alert. Got to put that in for a and solve for b. There we go. That's okay. Nobody's perfect. Good thing I caught it though. So we have negative 24 plus 2b. Adding the 24 on both sides, we get 2b equals 24. And so b equals 12. All right, now to find c. All right, so let's plug both of these back in. So we're going to have 4. I'm going to plug it into the first one. 4 times 2 minus 2 times 12 plus c equals 0. Solving this for c. 8 minus 24 plus c equals 0. 8 minus 24 is going to be negative 16 plus c equals 0. And then adding 16 on both sides, we get c equals 16. Okay, now that I know what a is, I know what b is, and I know what c is, we can go ahead and plug them in to our standard form. So we're going to end up with y equals 2x squared, plugging b in, plus 12x, plugging c in, plus 16. And there is standard form. And that's how you get that using elimination method. All right, couple things before you start the worksheet. If you're ever given a point, and you should know this, but if you're ever given a point in that format,